Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works metal shop. Got another big project in the theme of let's see if we can stay ahead of everything that breaks around here. And that's pretty near impossible because I'm outnumbered. There's so many people using so much stuff and so much stuff breaks. And that's all I do, seems like, is fix stuff. And that's the theme of this video also. We have a brush hog right here. This is an old John Deere brush hog. It's an old one. These arms have broken many times. The reason they break, it's the difference between a driver and an operator. A driver looks straight ahead and keeps driving. That's all they know to do. Well, an operator pays attention to what's going on, and like when you cross a ditch, you would raise this up so that the back end doesn't jack up in the air and break these things off. And that's what happens. It does have this flexible thing here that goes up and down with the bar, but that only gives you so much relief, and if you cross anything really big, it's still gonna break it. I think what I'm going to try to do is like my dad used to do. He had a chain here. He had a chain from here to the tractor, and that way if this thing lifts up, it just pushes into the chain. So I'm going to have to find a big enough chain to put that in this link here instead of using this, because this is broken. I couldn't tell you how many times. If I'm operating it, I pay attention to those kinds of things and it doesn't happen, but there's so many other people operating it is the problem. And by the way, as we get into fixing this, I have a brand new welder that was sent to me by Welder. It's a DP200 and it's a 200 amp welder, and we'll get that out of the box and fix this thing up with that later in the video. First thing I'm going to do is loosen these bolts that hold this, because this is pushed forward and I can't even beat it back. It's that tight. So here we go. There we go, got it loose. Okay, that's loose, so maybe I can beat it back now. There we go. Yeah, it's moving now. It wouldn't even move before. I don't even know what to do with this. If I should just weld it again, I think I will, because that'll just be a lot easier than trying to deal with everything else. The weld held for a very long time, by the way. It's really got nothing to do with the welding. It's the way you treat the thing is the problem. First thing I'm going to do is do a little bit of weld prep here. Not very much. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. I got my safety glasses on, but I don't have a guard on this. It's just going to be fun here. I guess we'll go ahead and get the welder out and we'll tack these things. Then I'm actually going to take it loose from here probably, at least on that side for sure, because that side there, I can't get to it very well. We'll figure that out as we get to it, but I want to be able to really weld it very well, whatever it takes to get to it to where I can get the welder in there. Well, to be clear, Welder is owned by Weldmart Incorporated, and also the brand name First Test is owned by Weldmart. So technically, I think this is a First Test DP200. You look there on the box, it's got a 7-inch LCD screen, a 3-minute quick start, 200 amps, dual voltage, which is really nice, and here it shows that it does MIG, flux core, TIG, and stick. Now, I don't know if it came with everything for that, but at least it is capable of that. So let's get it out and see what we actually have in the box, because I do not know. Wow, it's a hefty welder. It's a nice one, boy. You can just tell right away it's a nice one. I'm pretty happy to have this. Alright, here's the MIG torch, or the wire feed torch. So that's really nice. It looks very heavy duty, well made. I think I'm probably going to stick weld with it first. So there's the liner for the torch. The liner does not come installed, but this is a quality torch. You know, this is not your cheap stuff. This is good stuff right here. I like this a lot. Came with the stick welding leads, but I don't think it came with the TIG welding stuff, which I didn't expect it to. Came with some welding wire, and it came with some new rollers for the wire on the inside. These are the guide rollers that push the wire through. Came with the gas line to hook up for the MIG welding if you want to do that. I generally don't. I generally just do wire feed. Here's the dual voltage converter, so you can plug in the big plug here and then plug it into a regular wall socket. Very cool. And they were generous. They sent along 2 spools of wire. This one's flux cord and this is solid. So I'll probably be using the flux cord more than the solid. I do have gas, but I know there's a lot of back and forth about, flux core is not as good as the MIG, with the gas. Well, the gas is more of a hassle to me. I have never had a problem with the flux core. In fact, once you set up a welder properly for flux core, it welds very well, and I'm very happy with the results I get with flux core. So probably that's the way I'll set this up, though I do have the option to use the actual MIG with the gas if I want to. And of course, as you would expect, it did come with a small manual, and it did come with a few consumables here, a few tips, MIG type tips. These tips are different than any other tips I have, so I would probably have to get specific tips for this machine. At least that's the way it looks right now. That would be one slightly negative. Maybe not. Maybe they're universal and these just look different. I don't know. But I'll probably do stick for this job right here. Well, you can see the cable it came with is very nice, very heavy, nice plug. And what's really nice is it's about 10 feet long, which is really nice. That gives you a lot more flexibility to move this around. It depends on the job. Sometimes I do need to move them. All right, I got her plugged in. Like I said, I'm planning to use stick welding for the first go around here. So I will consult the manual. Hopefully it's fairly easy on how to set it up for stick welding. Fancy design here on the side. Looks like paint splatters and things. I'm going to open it up just to look in there to make sure there's nothing in there that needs to be removed or anything before we get started. It looks nice and simple and clean. It's got your typical stuff that you would expect to see. There's a USB port up here. Not sure what that would be for right now, but it might tell me. It's a USB-C, by the way. Okay, there's not much in there that we need to really concern ourselves with, I don't think. According to the manual, it just says hook up your electrodes to the positive and negative accordingly. So I'm going to hook the ground into the negative, and I'm going to hook the electrode into the positive. Now, the ground clamp itself is a little lightweight, I'll admit, but the cable itself seems to be pretty skookum, so I think it's fine. I typically buy heavy-duty brass clamps and replace the ground clamps with the heavy-duty brass ones. But that's for down the road. I don't have to do that right away, and this will be fine for quite a while. Okay, we'll plug that in, and then you just turn it to the right to lock it in place. And I'm going to hook that up to the part that I'm welding down here. I think I'll just hook that up to the to this bolt right here. It's a good clean connection. That ought to give me a good ground. And those fit together kind of like a glove, so I'm just going to leave it there and then we'll tack that on both sides. I have not yet turned this machine on, so you're going to get to see it turned on for the very first time. And we'll learn together, because I truly do not know a thing about it. And I haven't read enough of the directions to hurt me any. I typically don't read the directions much on some new piece of equipment like this, because I like to see if it's intuitive. Can I figure it out? And that's what I like to understand. Can I figure it out? So I assume the switch is back here. Looks like it is. We turned it on. And you can see first test DP200, yes welder. Okay, well I gotta be honest, I don't think the manual is real helpful. It gives you the information, but it kind of has a lot of reading between the lines, if you understand what I'm saying. In other words, if you really understand this machine, this manual's fine. But if you don't know anything about it, I think the manual's a little weak. That's just my opinion. But I did see that you have a home button, so I pressed the home button, and when I pressed the home button, it brought up this. Well, that makes all kinds of sense right there, because now I can pick the stick option, which makes sense. And then I'll go over to the settings just to see, well, I'll go to the settings just to see what that is. Those are just options that I don't think will matter in this particular case. So I'm going to go back to home, I'm going to pick stick, and I'm pressing the button there. Now I see what I need here. The size rod, I think I have 1/8 inch rod. So we'll go with that. It's set for 105 amps, and quite honestly, that's probably just about where I would want it. I really think that's all I need to do. We're going to go with that. Just assume that it's correct. I'll put on my Andeli welding helmet that they sent to me also, which is really nice. And as far as I can tell, we're ready to weld. It doesn't make any noise. That's just amazing. Well, there it goes. The fan just kicked on. So let's get down here and see if we can weld something. My very first time trying it, so you'll get to see it. Here it is. Well, that was easy. Nothing to that. I love how quiet this thing is. It's just amazing. And the welder, you know, the actual welding there on the end is very controlled. It's easy. It's one of the easiest stick welders I've ever used. I was just going to tack it, but I decided to go ahead and weld it out, and so I did. This 70-18 rod, it coats over, and you got to break that coating off to get started again. On this side, I'm only going to tack it because I can't get to the other side. In fact, I don't know if I can even tack it real easy. There it goes. That welded up pretty nice. The 70-18 rod, like I said, it coats over the end, and you have trouble getting it started on your next weld, but it's working just fine. For the moment, I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off, and I imagine it'll run for a few seconds and then go off. That's my guess. And that's exactly what happened. Well, I got to tell you right now, this welder's a big hit with me right at the moment. I love the quietness. I love how controlled the weld seems to be. Just perfect. And it looks like it has just tons of options for really dialing in your work. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these loose, and well, I'm going to take that one loose for sure. This side here, I may just leave it because I can get to this one pretty easy. That one there, the brake is lower. It's harder to get to that one. So let me get the right tools to get that apart. Okay, before I switch over to take those bolts loose back there at the back, I'm going to go ahead and tighten these back up in the front up here. Yeah, this old gun here really does a good job. I got this at Harbor Freight, but they don't make it anymore. They don't support it anymore. It's Earthquake XT, 20 volt. Man, it's powerful. Well, my friends, that only took one welding rod, and not even the whole rod actually, to fix all that. I'm impressed with this welder. I got to tell you, I really like it so far. Now, of course, the true test will be once I set it up for MIG too, and then, or at least flux core. Well, now that we got her welded up, I'm going to put this bolt back in here, tighten it down. That ain't going nowhere. Well, my friends, you've all heard that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and expecting a different result. Well, I don't expect a different result anymore, so therefore I'm going to switch and do something different. This is the link, the top link that hooks to the top of the brush hog to the tractor. And so in order to make this, see, this is rigid, so when that back of that brush hog comes up, it hits against this and it breaks those connectors. Well, if you use a chain, a heavy chain, instead of that, well, then there's nothing to hit against. This is the heaviest piece of chain I've got. It's about the right length, so I'm just going to go for it and see if we can make it work. It'll work until it breaks. The problem is the links are too small to get the pin through, so I'm going to open up these links. Okay, so I'm going to drive this pin through and hopefully open that up. I think that might be big enough. Nope, it's not. Well, it's almost. So I'm going to need a little bigger pin to drive through there. Nothing's ever simple, you know? I don't know, if I ever found something simple, I think I'd just sit up all night and look at it, because I've never seen anything simple when I have to do it. Let's see, does that go? Okay, that goes through there now. All right, so now we basically have to do the other end. Let's see if I can do this without burning my arm off. Now the other end, this link is bad. I don't think we need the link anyway, so I'm going to cut that link off. I'm going to burn myself eventually, or I just know it. I can just feel it coming. So I'm going to cut this link off. I'll just cut that off with the cutting torch while I got it right here. Well, that ought to work. Yeah, it does. So I think I got both ends opened up. It ought to work real well. Okay, so the next step is to put one of these clevises on here so that we can hook it up to that pin on the brush hog. So we'll run this through. These are pretty heavy duty outfits. These things will hold a lot of weight. I'm not worried about the clevis breaking. The chain might break, but I don't think the clevis will. I'm putting a heavy duty cotter pin in here to really keep the nut from coming back off this clevis. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut those off a little bit. I don't like them sticking out that far. Of course, that being cut off, that makes it sharp. So what I'll do there, to get rid of the sharpness, I'll take a little file and knock off that sharp edge and make sure it's not sharp enough to cut you. That should work. Okay, so this is a pretty simple install here, and I might change this pin out. Honestly, it doesn't need to be a quick change pin. It could just be a real good heavy bolt, but that's all there is to it. So that part's hooked up to there, and we basically do the very same thing on the tractor side. So now I'll need to get another clevis and hook it up in here. Okay, I got another clevis and a pin, and so we should be able to do the same thing. Perfect. Put another big cotter key in there, cotter pin, and I'll have to get the pliers to bend that over. That should do the job. with it. So there you have it, my friends. That's an outside-the-box solution to keep that from breaking in the future. I hope it works. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, do that. And we'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much.